Welcome to CAF Warbird Tube, a show where we talk about warbirds, history, World War II flying, and much, much more. This show is supported by the Commemorative Air Force, the world's largest flying museum. This nonprofit membership organization has preserved and flown historic aircraft for more than 65 years. CAF's mission is to educate, inspire, and honor through flight and living history experiences, and you can support the organization through your donations, membership, and by volunteering your time and talents. Visit commemorativeairforce.org for more information. Now, joining us tonight is Rick Larsen, who is with the Experimental Aircraft Association, and he's going to be talking about EAA AirVenture Oshkosh, which is coming up in just a few weeks. Yes, 71 days or so. And if you have any questions for Rick, just type those into the chat box, and we will endeavor to answer them as we go on. So, with that, Rick Larsen, good evening and welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve, thanks. Great to be here tonight.
Well, tell us a little bit about your role at EAA.
Yeah, I'm on the senior team here, Vice President of Communities and Member Programs for EAA, which kind of encompasses the outward-facing side of the organization, most of our programming, chapters, youth programming, et cetera. And then somewhat in the middle of that is I get pretty heavily involved in coordinating features and attractions for AirVenture. So I think that's what we're gonna chat about tonight.
All right, let's go ahead and take it away. We are July 25th is opening day, and let's dive into what we'll see at Whitman Regional Airport.
Sure, absolutely. So thought we'd start with just kind of talk through some of the major themes that you'll see this year at the event. And probably at the top of the list is it's the 75th anniversary of the U.S. Air Force. So all the major commands are participating. You'll see strong presence throughout the entire week. The way it's kind of shaping up at this point, Steve, is that each day one of the major commands will take center stage. I think for those of you that have been to AirVenture over the past few years, you've seen us feature a different major command of the Air Force each year. And so what you'll kind of anticipate, I think, or you can anticipate this year as we go forward, is that there'll be a different major command featured each day of the event. It'll be a little bit of the best in terms of what you've seen here from each of them over the last several years. But the idea is, it'll be integrated throughout the week in the air show, static on the plaza, programming like Theater in the Woods, flying movie theater, really throughout the entire week. So, we're seeing very, very strong support from the Air Force to really make this a big deal in terms of what'll happen here in July in Oshkosh. So, and as we go through some of the other programming tonight that we've got laid out, you'll see how it's integrated throughout the entire week. But that one probably takes center stage for us this year, and clearly will have a big part in what you'll see from a flying standpoint. I know a program that's near and dear to your heart, Steve, is the Young Eagles program, and it's 30th anniversary of the program. And that's another one that's going to be highlighted throughout the week. We've got a lot of different activities going on. You'll see Young Eagles being flown, a lot of activities that help us highlight the program. And one of the things that we're dealing with right now, as all the organizations are, is coming out of COVID and really getting programs reactivated. We see this as an opportunity when you look at AirVenture this year. This is an opportunity for us to go shed some light on this really important program. And hopefully that will generate interest in terms of getting chapters and members back in the saddle with flying Young Eagles. It's coming back. It's coming back very strongly, actually. But there's that need, I think, to just keep pushing it and making sure that we get the program back to where it was and then grow from there. So that will be a pretty significant thing throughout the entire week. Another big anniversary when it comes to themes. It's Van's Aircraft 50th anniversary, and we'll talk in a little bit. We'll talk about Theater in the Woods, but beyond Theater in the Woods, obviously the Van's 50th presents a great participation opportunity for our members. Anybody that stood in the home built area, just to the south of Warbirds, and you see that sea of airplanes out there every year. The largest number of aircraft that are there are Vans, and when you look at it in sheer numbers, and the impact that it's had on our community from an amateur building standpoint, this will be a big anniversary, and one that we would expect to see a lot of new builds show up. One of the things that clearly has happened during COVID is the kit side has had a significant amount of demand. And so you've had people at home that have had time to build. They viewed it as a safe thing to go do. And so my guess is you're going to see a lot of airplanes showing up at Oshkosh this year. It'll be the first time, to be in Oshkosh. And because of the anniversary, I think you'll see a big turnout from a van standpoint.
Well, it really
Go ahead.
is amazing. What Richard Van Grunsman and his team have done. It's hard to believe it's been 50 years since the first since the first RV, but it really the foresight and vision that he had to create the kits that have not only stood the test of time, but they're fun to fly. and he's adapted over the years, from the single seat RV3 to the 4, the 6, 6A, and on, and just keeps getting better the more they go on.
Yeah, I think when we were talking about this actually a couple of weeks ago at a board meeting, and Dick is on our board, and we were just talking about the significant impact that one company has had on the whole amateur built side. I think, as Steve, each year, if you look at single engine airplanes that are registered, with the FAA, there's more amateur built airplanes than any of if you take all the Part 23 manufactured aircraft, and add all those single engine airplanes together, there's more amateur built airplanes that are registered each year than that group, and Vans is a big part of it. It's come a long way in terms of the kits and the ease of build, and as a result, it's just had a huge impact, when we look at recreational aviation.
Yes, quite a legacy, and continuing on. So we'll look forward to that, and building on the amateur built theme, the 1 week wonder. If this will be the third
one in the last 8 years, I guess, 7 or 8 years. This year will be a Sonic.
Yeah, explain to folks what the 1 week wonder is. What's the driving force behind this?
So this actually goes back to one of the events here in Oshkosh back in I want to say it was mid-late 70s. And Steve, you may actually know that date better than I do. But the idea was at that time, they built an aircraft in 1 week. And so we started. So we brought the idea back again. I think it was 8 years ago. We did it with a Zenith, and the intent was we start on Monday morning, and on Sunday we've got an airplane that's ready for FAA inspection, and then we actually flew the airplane on that following Tuesday or Wednesday after the event ended. We did that again 4 years ago with Vans with an RV, and it's a great way to go draw attention to home building. We've got a group of core builders and then volunteers. We involve kids. You can come up, you can pull a rivet on the airplane, and it's just a neat way to go highlight, the home built community.
And it is, as you say, it involves more than just a core of people who are building this airplane.
Absolutely.
which you might do maybe as a promotional event or something like that. But people who come to the event can actually help, like you said, pull a rivet or or help with some of the assembly of the airplane. So it becomes truly a community built aircraft.
It really does. We have a logbook there, so if you pull a rivet, your name goes in the build, the logbook, and it's just a neat way to look back. We at one point, I think with the Vans aircraft, we had that aircraft signed. People later on then signed where they pulled rivets, and it was just cool to see an airplane covered with signatures. And again, like you said, it's a great way to introduce people. It's a great way to show what's possible. A great way to involve kids, and you'll see that this year. And that's right at the four corners, right at the center of the show for EAA this year. So one of the things that we're looking to do from a Warbird standpoint is get a flight of cats up. Wildcat, Hellcat, Bearcat, Tiger Cat. We're working with Rod Lewis. We're working with the Fagan Group to get a Hellcat. And right now, this is looking really good. We love doing this type of flying in the air show that creates kind of those, only in Oshkosh type of moments. And, this is one we've kicked around for a bit. Rod Lewis left his Wildcat here in our museum with the idea that after last year's AirVenture, that it would fly again this year with this idea in mind of being able to bring all the cats together and fly. So it's coming together. We've got a little bit of work to do on the coordination of this, but I think we all feel pretty good that it's going to happen. And again, it kind of creates that, one of those only in Oshkosh moments. We hope that, throughout the week we have a number of those that occur. But this is one. And it should be pretty spectacular. Top Gun is I've got that next on the list here, and we will be showing Top Gun Maverick on at Flying Movie Theater on Friday night. I would assume by then most of the people that will be there, and I would expect, as you know, a large crowd for this on Friday night. Most of them will probably be seeing it for the second, third, or fourth time by then. But it should be a pretty spectacular evening at the Flying Theater. And clearly we've been wanting to do this for a while, and obviously with the delays in the theatrical release, we've been unable. But it's happening this year. That will tie to a number of other things we're doing around Top Gun, including Theater in the Woods programming. You'll see a lot of different aggressor aircraft here. You'll see aggressor aircraft from the Air Force as well. So this winds up being one of those things that goes way beyond just simply being able to show the movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
for those who don't know, explain the Flying Theater.
So Flying Movie Theater goes back about 10, 11, 12 years now. We had an idea at the time of, how do we go kind of replicate, doing an outdoor movie, aviation classics, kind of the side of the hangar type of deal. And what that ultimately wound up being is, a 5-story high inflatable screen. The area where we show this and have this, comfortably will seat, 4, 5, 6,000 people. And, it winds up being, it's in the campground. It winds up being just a neat way to go spend each evening, if you choose to do it, watching aviation movies. And each evening we have a presenter that will open it up. The idea is the presenter is tied in some way to the movie, and it has gone from let's go try it, like I say, 10 or 12 years ago, to a just a staple of the event. It really is a something that our members really love. It's a great way to unwind after a day, and it's convenient. It's sitting essentially right in the campground, and it's just like I say, it has become an absolute staple of AirVenture at this point.
It certainly has, and your next or your next bullet point is another event that has become just magical to see every Friday during the show, and that's the honor flight.
Yeah, we certainly missed doing it last year. We wanted to, but the honor flight groups, had taken a hiatus coming out of COVID, and a lot of Washington at the time was pretty shut down. So we were unable to do it last year. But you're absolutely right. I think of all the things that we do during that week, for me, the honor flight's probably that thing that is most special. It has migrated from World War II vets when we started this to Korea, and now it's predominantly Vietnam. And when you look at the Vietnam side, the piece that really is significant with that is in almost all cases, the folks that are on that honor flight never had any type of a welcome home at all. And what you realize when you sit down and you talk to them is that has been a real open issue ever since they came back. And this is that opportunity. The flight departs real early on Friday. They're out of here before 7 a.m. They spend the day in Washington, and then come back here, and they come back to several thousand people on the plaza greeting them, and a ceremony when they get back, and it really does wind up being a really special evening. A lot of tears, and but just one of those amazing good feel things. And if you're at AirVenture and you haven't spent Friday on the plaza when the honor flight comes back, man, I'd go recommend doing it. You will not regret it at all.
That is definite. And while the honor flight is in Washington, D.C., there's also Friday's also a salute to Veterans Day. There's a Veterans Parade, but 2 o'clock in the afternoon, where veterans march from the Warbird area down to Show Center, and that in itself is quite a sight to see with all the veterans and some of the military vehicles, and just a chance for all of us to say thank you for your service.
Well, and that really is what, I think, when you step back and you look at Friday, it's what Friday's all about. It's a thank you. And, it's just one of those you can't help but walk away feeling really good about it.
That is very true. And your final bullet there is space, which EIA was founded in 1953. Paul Poberezny and some like-minded aviators got together and started building airplanes and modifying airplanes and trying to advance aviation technology, and that's continued through the years. And as long as I've been around, NASA has always played a big part in the show, and
Yep.
now seeing some of the commercial space vendors come in and join and show off their wares as well. Again, we continue to see the march of technology just keeping moving forward.
Yeah, and I think we certainly obviously over the years, I mean, the scope of what AirVenture is about, and for that matter EAA, has certainly continued to expand. I think we want people to come to AirVenture and see all facets of aviation and aerospace, and especially young people. We believe that one of the things that EAA and AirVenture does, and does in a really good way, is introduces youth to what's possible and what's out there. And it's a way to get them introduced to aviation, and hopefully that lights a lifelong passion. And I think we feel that being able to present all spectrums of it, or the full spectrum of it, just makes a ton of sense. So, this year you'll have NASA here in a big way. They're bringing some of their Artemis astronauts. It looks like they'll be bringing a mock-up of the Orion capsule. The NASA administrator will be here. We'll have SpaceX represented. We'll talk in a minute about some of our programming at Theater in the Woods, but that'll feature Jared Isaacman, who has as a private citizen will be flying. He flew one mission already with his own crew. And then there's multiple missions coming up that he has bought. And it just shows, what's going on, the dynamics of what's going on with space at this point, whether that's, the true commercial side, or whether it's what's happening as a result of NASA. So, it'll be, we're looking for this to, again, be inspiring and for everybody. And again, I look at what's going on with NASA, and at this point, it looks like we're only, 2 or 3 years from walking on the moon again. And, that's a pretty big deal. And something I think we all ought to start to focus on a little bit.
Well, you mentioned Jared, and one of our viewers asked the question: Is Jared Isaacman bringing his MiG-29 to the show?
You'll see it on my my list of cool airplanes here coming up. It's on there. He's talking about bringing it, and so that ought to be pretty cool if that happens. Absolutely.
Excellent. And for those of you watching, if you have any questions for Rick about what's coming up at the show, or logistics, whatever, just type them in the chat box, and Leah will forward them to me, and we'll get them answered for you.
So I put a slide in here just to talk about some other highlights. And one of the things that we're seeing, and again, this is the breadth of the event expanding, is the industry now sees Oshkosh and AirVenture as a great way to go recruit. And that creates an opportunity then on both sides. It creates an opportunity for industry, but it also creates an opportunity for attendees to truly see what's out there in the industry and what's available. And clearly one of the areas where you're seeing a lot of demand is on the pilot side and building a pipeline. So this year you're going to see United, Delta, American here, both on a static standpoint. We're working with them on some demo flying. Again, American with the honor flight. But that's, relatively, other than, what we've been doing with the honor flight, the airline side, over the last 5 years, 5 events, has really accelerated with looking at the event as a real place to go look for talent. And again, it creates an opportunity on both sides. And we've got, a college park or gateway park area where the universities are represented, companies that are recruiting are represented. So it's a great opportunity, especially for young people looking at what they want to do career-wise, those that are starting down that path, to go engage with industry and see what's out there. And again, I think it's kind of the beauty of the event, growing in its breadth, that one of the things that we can start to do are make some real connections there. I've got a list here, and this is really just a starting list of some of the anniversaries. We talked about the Van's 50th. The other one that's on here that'll be a big one this year is the 75th anniversary of the Bonanza. And so you'll see a lot of, I think, participation with that community. I think last time I checked, we had over 100 older Bonanzas registered that kind of fall into the the vintage side of the house. You can see a number of home-built aircraft that have significant anniversaries. It's also the 40th anniversary of Part 103, and Part 103 is really the FAA regulations that really brought about the ultralight side of the world. And so down in the ultralight area in the fun fly zone, you'll see a lot of focus put on the 40th anniversary of that. And that really created a whole, niche of recreational aviation. So, something that we will definitely celebrate this year. You referred to the MiG-29, and, this is a list that at this point really just continues to grow. And that is, as we start to get confirmations of just what I put it under my category of cool airplanes. And it's everything from this Jenny restoration that's been underway down at Poplar Grove here in Illinois for a number of years. They flew it for the first time last fall. That airplane will be here. It'll be featured right out in front of the vintage hangar. We're going to take our J1 standard and put that out there with it. There's a lot of commonality there in design and of the same era, but I can tell you the Jenny is just an absolute work of art, and they're going to be flying it in here, and it'll be on display all week. But some of the other stuff that to me falls in the cool category, you'll have a U2 here, and rather than just making a flyby, the plan at this point is to have the airplane come in and be on the ground, but also fly during the week. Some really cool new restorations that we're watching. There's a P-47B out there and an ME-109 down in Illinois that, at this point, the folks are certainly geared up to try to make it happen for AirVenture. We know that doesn't always happen. We've got Dean Cutchell from Indiana bringing the F-100 back. We wanted that here as part of the Air Force 75th. Even on the and I look at everybody is aware of what an A330 is, and so you see those every day. But the one that'll be here will be in Team USA colors from Delta. Jerry Yeagan is bringing a number of airplanes this year, including the Mosquito, P-51, a Corsair, and a P-40. And those are airplanes that have not been here before. Kermit's got his new A-26 that he just finished a restoration of, Kermit Weeks, and that'll be here. Doug Matthews with the new F-86 restoration. Just a wide variety. And this list, like I said, this list just from where we are today on the calendar to, when the event starts, the cool aircraft list just continues to grow. And, so we expect, a lot of just unique airplanes to be on the ground, and each one of those potentially creates a reason for somebody to say, hey, I want to be here this year because that's here.
Right.
So, fun stuff.
Exactly. If you know offhand, who's doing the P-47 and the ME-109 restorations?
You know what? I don't know the names. I know the ME-109 is an Illinois airplane. I want to say Central Illinois somewhere. And I'm not sure where the P-47B is. The cool thing about the P-47 is, whether it gets done in time for this to happen or not. But I know Warren Peach has talked about flying that and doing an aerobatic routine with it. Whether that makes it for this year or not, I don't know. But again, those are the cool things that kind of start popping up.
Now, is there a spot on the website where you're listing out some of the cool aircraft, or is it
we
mostly
will
in the highlights?
Yep, we will. As this list starts to grow, we will make sure we've got an area on the website where you can go look at unique airplanes that are going to be here. And again, I mean, we look at it from the standpoint that there's somebody out there that looks at an F-100 and goes, man, I want to be here. I want to see that fly again. And that's that way with a number of these. So we will get that out there, Steve.
Cool. Bill Foraker, checking in from Arizona, Mr. Hawaiian shirt out there.
Yeah.
And looking forward to seeing Bill at the air show briefings this year. He says the ME-109 restoration is Aero Restorations from Danville, Illinois.
Danville. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
Proving once again that our audience is pretty smart.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, Bill.
Yep. So yeah, I mentioned Theater in the Woods, and we talked about it a little bit of the programming, but if you look at what we have lined up here, it's a pretty cool list this year. We always try to make, obviously during the event, we'll do 800 forums during the event. What we do at Theater Woods in the evening is always pretty special, and as you know, Steve, again, one of these things that goes way back, and it's a way to kind of get up close and personal with a lot of the legends of aviation. It's an outdoor venue that we have had probably crowds upwards of 8 to 10,000 for particular evenings. And the programming, we try to do things that are unique. We try to really bring unique personalities to the table, and I think this year is really shaping up that way. Sunday we'll kick it off with a panel that we call Evening of Champions. On Monday it's RV 50th, which Dick Van Grunsman will be part of that. But we'll include things like, we've got the 10,000th RV builder that'll be on that panel. And hopefully we get a little bit of a sneak peek of the new RV 15 at that time. But it should be a really cool evening, as we talk about the impact of what the RV, the vans community has been to aviation and to the amateur building side. Tuesday, we've got Flying the Presidents, and this has got Chris Henry on our museum staff written all over it, because we've got Mark Tillman here, who's one of the Air Force One pilots. We also have a pilot that was here, or that flew George Bush onto the carrier when he was president. We've got a Marine One pilot. We've got one of the pursers that has been part of the Air Force One crew. Again, I think the idea here, in terms of what we're doing at Theater in the Woods, is kind of give that a very behind the scenes look. Something that you're probably not going to hear, or there's going to be things you're not going to hear in some other presentations like this. Wednesday, we've got Women Legends of Aerobatics, and it's everybody from Julie Clark, Vicki Benzing, Patty Wagstaff, Jesse Panzer, Debbie Ryn Harvey. It's part of what we do on Wednesday, which is Women Venture, but we kind of culminate that in the evening at Theater in the Woods, and we really feel good about what Wednesday night will be, and the discussions that'll occur there. Thursday, we're kind of doing a double feature. We're doing Young Eagle 30th, and Steve, you're going to be involved in that. And the whole idea, again, is to kind of showcase and highlight some of the success stories and some of the cool aspects of what's come out of 30 years, of the Young Eagles program. I think we've got our 2 millionth Young Eagle coming back, our 1 millionth Young Eagle coming back. We will have Race Scholars, which is a program that we have out there that funds flight training for youth We'll have a couple of race scholars on that panel that are kids that were introduced to aviation through the Young Eagles program, got to learn to fly with a Young Eagle scholar or with a Ray Aviation scholarship, and now they're back out at it flying Young Eagles themselves. So it's a way for us to go showcase the program. That'll be followed by a program on Top Gun and a number of different folks, including, you know, the real Viper, Pete Pettigrew, Duke Cunningham, Willie Diskrol, which is he was Cunningham's Rio, you know, current Top Gun instructors. So it ought to be a really, really cool night at Theater in the Woods, and we appreciate you wanting to be involved in what we're doing there with the Young Eagle 30th, Steve.
Well, thank you. And of course, the question that has surfaced ever since the original Top Gun movie came out back in the 80s is, will Tom Cruise be at the show?
You know, you never know. You know, we certainly would love to see something like that happen, but you know, at this point, I certainly can't confirm that, but I also can't tell you that we're not pursuing that. So, you know, we'll see what comes out of it. I know there is a strong connection there, and you know, the folks that like David Ellison that, you know, have been involved in the production of Top Gun Maverick, you know, obviously see a strong, you know, connection to the community that really embraces, you know, and will embrace the new movie, but embrace the original. And, you know, so you never know. We're trying.
There you go.
Friday, you know, we talked a little bit about this already, the future of space flight, you know, with NASA and SpaceX represented, you know, should be a really good evening. And, you know, the idea of having, you know, a couple of the Artemis astronauts here is, you never know. I mean, that, you know, one of those astronauts may be, you know, the next person to walk on the moon. So, you know, should be a really special evening. And then on Saturday, we'll wrap it up as we have for the last several years with the Air Force. They'll be celebrating the 75th anniversary. It looks like the, you know, potentially we'll have the Chief of Staff of the Air Force here that night. And, you know, we anticipate some really good programming, you know, around the anniversary. So I think Theater in the Woods is just looking really good tonight, or this time around for this year. And yeah, we're absolutely looking forward to it. So Flying Movie Theater, we're back a little bit to aviation classics, and part of that is, you know, driven by the 75th anniversary of the Air Force. So it's a mix. You know, we talked about Top Gun Maverick on Friday, but we as we did last year, we actually start the Flying Movie Theater on the Saturday night prior to the start of the event. By the time you get to Saturday evening, you know, as you know, Steve, the campground is alive and is filling up. So we tried it last year. We didn't really, frankly, know what kind of crowd we would get, and you know, certainly part of it was just the fact we were showing Top Gun, which seems like a great way to kick the event off every year. But you know, we had, you know, a crowd of several thousand people on Saturday night for the first night of this. So I would anticipate the same thing again. We're going to kick it off with Top Gun. We'll go into some classic movies Sunday nights, The Big Lift. Monday is Air Force One. Tuesday is The McConnell Story. Wednesday is Jet Pilot. So you've got some of the classics in there. Thursday, we're working on a couple different options. So it's a TBD at this point. Friday is Top Gun Maverick, and on Saturday we'll do Toward the Unknown. So again, I think one of the things, and you remember when we started the flying movie theater, the intent was classic movies. And it was the idea of, what a bunch of people might want to, when they get together at their local airport, what they might want to go show on the side of the hangar. And, so this year is going to bring a little bit more of that back with some of these older movies, interspersed with the Top Guns and Air Force One and Top Gun Maverick. But it should be a fun place to go spend the evenings this year.
Awesome.
I've got just on some other highlights and getting into some other evening entertainment. One of the things that we started, I believe this will be the 5th year for it, is Twilight Flight Fest. We were looking for other flying opportunities that would be impactful, that people would enjoy and would appreciate. But might also, help bring frankly, a younger audience in the evenings, to the event. So we came up with this idea of the Twilight Flight Fest, and it happens on the evenings, beginning at 8 o'clock down in the ultralight area, the Fun Fly Zone, on the evenings in which we're not doing a night air show. So that's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And again, it begins at 8 o'clock. It takes something that we had actually had the first couple times we did it, the short takeoff and landing demos that we had as part of the normal, daytime air show, and it brings that down to the ultralight strip. So it's kind of this up close and personal side that you get to see short takeoff and landing being done as a demo. That'll have, about a dozen airplanes involved. And you're right there on the fence watching it. It's just a great fun activity. We've got the Red Bull Air Force, from a parachute standpoint. One of the things that we brought into this at the start when we did Twilight Flight Fest the first time around was 3D RC flying. And for those that have never seen this, these are quarter and third scale, fully lit. This happens after it gets dark, but the flying is fantastic, and it introduced another aspect of aviation, in this case RC, to a crowd that might not have known what that was. And then we've got the paramotor team, and we've got the Patriot parachute team. So it winds up being, I think the first time we did this, we might have had several hundred people down in the Twilight, or down in the ultralight area. This has grown to be several thousand every night we do this, and it's just fun. It's a completely different vibe, and definitely a younger crowd. It's just a fun way to go spend an evening.
It certainly is. It really has blossomed over the last few years. And if you've not seen the 3D RCs perform, it is absolutely amazing what these pilots can do with those aircraft.
And in almost each case, when it comes to the 3D RC side, it's all much younger, pilots. They're all 14, 15, 16, 18 years old, and you just put on a great show. So it's a cool part, and again, the idea is do something different. Give people an opportunity to do different things. We talked about 1 Week Wonder already. Again, that'll be at shows, kind of at the Four Corners center of the show for us. Again, this year it's a Sonics, a WAX, and it'll be actually one of their first factory designed Rotax installations. So I think that'll draw a lot of interest, and it will be a lot of fun. And the idea is that we're taxing it on Sunday. We talked about, air shows a little bit off and on through this, but clearly, we try to put together, the best of the best throughout the week. daily air shows each day that start at 2:30 and run till about 6 o'clock. And night air shows on Wednesday and Saturday. And then a fireworks display, which, most people walk away from here going, I've seen a lot of fireworks displays, but I've never seen anything quite like that. And, it really is again, another great way to go spend an evening. And both the Wednesday and Saturday shows have just become big highlights of the event. I threw down here, we've got a number of the military demo teams here. The Air Force and Navy from an F-35 standpoint, the Growler. But actually, we'll have a E2 doing a demo, and the Osprey as well. So, some pretty cool flying on the military side. And again, you're going to see, the best of the best here. And this next slide, I'm not going to go through this, but this is, as of, relatively early on with the planning for the air show, the folks that are confirmed and they'll be flying. And this list has continued to grow. Again, we try to bring a lot of variety to what we do each day. Every show is different. It's not the same show. And so the 9 air shows are 9 different air shows throughout the week.
One of our viewers was asking, do you have a list of the military aircraft that are coming in support of the 75th anniversary of the Air Force?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there'll be an initial story going out tomorrow with the first pass of aircraft on the military side that are confirmed. I will tell you, it is it's a good list, but in terms of what it will be, it's a short list at this point. We're at that point with the military where the confirmations are now starting to come in. We've got a number of, yes, we're confirmed, but we would rather not have you announce it yet, kind of going on. So that's pretty typical when you're sitting in May. That list will continue to grow, and we'll continue to update that and get a real strong list out there, as we get closer. A couple other things I wanted to highlight. One is, something that'll be utilized this year for the first time is we have a new education center that's opening up. It's been dubbed Project 21. The upper level of it is youth programming. The lower level of it is pilot proficiency oriented. It's about 30,000 square feet. It's the first real addition to the museum that we've made in about 22, 23 years. And this was the dollars were all raised from a donor standpoint. Actually, during COVID, we broke ground a little over a year ago, April a year ago. And so the Pilot Proficiency Center, part of this really takes from what we were doing with the Pilot Proficiency Center during AirVenture and makes it a year-round proposition. So this year's Pilot Proficiency Center offering at AirVenture will be here in the new facility. Again, it's tied right to the backside of the Eagle hangar. The Redbird, we've got 12 Redbird sims there, a crosswind trainer, and a number of classrooms. So it'll become both year-round, but during AirVenture, it's going to be the home of the Pilot Proficiency Center. And then on the youth education side, 15,000 square feet that'll be dedicated to year-round youth education. 5 labs. One of them features a wind tunnel that we were able to get from Embry-Riddle, multiple classrooms. So it gives us that year-round programming, dedicated programming space for youth. But it will also be used throughout each day at AirVenture for all types of youth programming that'll be available to kids that are here at AirVenture. So something, if you head over to the museum, there'll be open house times. Certainly would recommend going and taking a look at Project 21. Just to wrap this up, one of the things that was new for us last year was free youth admission. So 18 and under, Boeing sponsored that. They're doing it again this year. I don't see us turning back on this one. We absolutely saw a greater mix of families and kids, and we would anticipate that to be the case going forward. And you combine that with all the different things that are on site for kids to do, from KidVenture itself, which is this hands-on area where thousands of kids will go through that programming during the event, to all types of other youth-oriented activities and programming. I think our intent here has been to, how do we make this just a great family venue all the way around, and also make it affordable? And that's, with the help of Boeing, has certainly helped make that happen with the free admission. One other reminder is, last year we introduced express arrival for the first time, and we've had, obviously, the ability to go buy your tickets online now for about 10 years. That results in a very simple transaction, but nonetheless a transaction that converts a piece of paper into a wristband. Express arrival is really the fastest way to get through this, and what that started last year, and it's just going to be something we're going to continue, is if you buy your tickets before June 15th, you can opt to have the wristbands mailed to you. So you've got your wristbands, you walk through the main gate, and you walk right on to the venue. Associated with that is camping as well. For those that are arriving early in that Tuesday through Sunday timeframe, if you buy your camping in advance with those arrival dates, there's a separate entry gate. You don't need to get out of your vehicle. There's a simplified process that gets you checked in, gets you your camping credentials, and you're off and running, at Camp Scholler. And then members, just a reminder that as EA members, pretty significant savings when it comes to admissions, including the ability to buy a weekly ticket, but also significant reductions when it comes to daily tickets. So with that, that's
there you go.
That's the end of my slides, Steve.
Okay, July 25th through the 31st, be in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. You don't want to miss it. We've got some questions that have come up, and quite a good lively discussion going on our social media channels. So we appreciate all of you joining in and participating. One of the questions that came up, we'll just get this one out of the way. COVID kind of upticking a little bit. Any major procedures or anything, any changes that will happen this year, maybe compared to last?
Yeah, I mean, I think, certainly, we leave it up to everybody that attends, whether, what precautions you want to take in terms of, wearing a mask, not wearing a mask, et cetera. We have our approach this year going into the event is to essentially execute in a pre-COVID type manner. Now, you'll still see, a lot going on with disinfecting and things like that. We're gonna carry a lot of that over from last year. But in terms of the event itself, it'll be very much a pre-COVID type of execution for us. We did make some changes, from 2019 and what we were doing in that year to where we are this year. But they were things that we probably needed to do anyway. Things we were talking earlier, Steve, things like lifetime dinner. We had gotten to a point where we simply could not accommodate our lifetime members doing a lifetime dinner. And so we're going to repurpose a building, make it a lifetime member oasis, and it's open to all lifetime members, throughout the week. We are not doing an opening day concert. And that had as much to do with sponsorship at this point, as well as simply, we didn't do one last year. And while we all thought, hey, it's fun, it's a great way to kick the event off, we didn't get a lot of cards and letters about where was opening day concert. And the flip side occurs in that to do the opening day concert, it meant clearing the plaza off on Monday. And so you had a plaza that was pretty empty. This year, you're going to walk in on Monday and you will have a full plaza, and with a lot of the larger aircraft. So, that's kind of where we're at this year and what the approach is for 22.
Sounds good. One of our viewers is asking, any way we can get the F-35B to get the trifecta, the A, B, and C?
We have absolutely talked about it. We'd love to see it. We're not, I wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibility at this point. But it's not something that we've got confirmed at this point. But it's certainly out there as a possibility. We would love to see all three.
That would be something.
That would be cool.
Yeah, we're going to see Warbirds in the show as similar to what we did last year.
Yeah, and similar to, in many ways, similar to what you saw, 2019 and prior. Clearly, we'll have certain days, that'll be much heavier Warbirds than other days. Dennis Dunbar is working through, those schedules. I didn't want to present anything at this point because it's a bit early, but you'll absolutely see that. Obviously down in the Warbirds area, Connie's working the Warbirds and Review side, which is always a fabulous part of the event. So, yep, you'll see Warbirds featured throughout the week.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, similar to the military aircraft, even though the requests are out there, and you're having positive conversations, operationally, sometimes these things don't come together until it gets much closer to the event. And that's one of the reasons why you mentioned Dennis Dunbar, who's taking care of the air show scheduling and the military. We'll have him on in early July when things are a little more firmed up, and he'll be able to actually say, well, yes, this, and this, we expect these to be here. And the same goes for Warbirds. There are a lot of Warbird owners and operators who want to come to Oshkosh, but for one reason or another, it's just a little too hard this far out to say for sure that they're coming. Although it just seems like everybody wants to be a part of Oshkosh.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's see a couple of things. Is there any part of the show or grounds that not enough people go to see? Okay, I had to read that twice to get the gist of it. What's the secret? The secret place or secret places that folks don't think about?
Boy, I'd have to go back and look at one point we had a list. I'll have to go back and look at it, and we'll need to get it up on the website. We kind of had the list of, here's stuff that you might not be thinking about that you ought to go take a look at. Clearly, each of the areas has, somewhere buried in the sea of airplanes are you really unique airplanes. And, at any other event, they would just jump out, but they're one of, 2,000 show planes sitting in vintage. Those types of things. Some of the stuff that we talked about here, if you've not gone down for Twilight Flight Fest, pick one evening, go down and watch that. I will guarantee you're going to come back to that. Just an absolute fun environment. It's got like I say, a completely different, vibe to it. Things like, all the different areas are now doing kind of the in reviews, whether that's home built or Warbirds or vintage. Those are always, I think, great things to go spend some time with. Because one of the things that we try to do is that how do we make those real direct connections between attendees and folks that are here And those in review sessions really do that. The workshops, we'll do several hundred workshops that give you an opportunity to go do some hands-on, aircraft building oriented activities, whether that's fabric or composite or welding or whatever it might be. It doesn't cost anything. You can go down, you can sign up, and you can go do that, and it's a great way to just get introduced to different facets of home building. That tends to, I think, appeal to a certain crowd, but I think those that you'll hear the stories all the time, did not think about when I got here that I was going to go do a workshop on fabric covering. Wow, I did it. This is really cool. I think I could go do that. So there's those types of things, that sit all around the site. And it's, we talk about it all the time. When you look at something that is as large, physically as large as AirVenture, with, if you follow, kind of the flight line up and around through the North 40, where, a lot of our aircraft camping is, and around 927 on the north side, there's, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 6 or 7 miles of, quote unquote flight line. That's a lot of airplanes. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of stuff to see. And, it does mean that, if you're here for one day, you just kind of have to pick and choose what you're going to go do. But boy, if you're here for multiple days, there's a whole lot to go discover.
And of course, the Seaplane Base.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, That is absolutely one where, you'll often hear the stories. Been here, been to AirVenture a number of years, never have been to the Seaplane Base. Went to the Seaplane Base. I wish somebody would have really told me about what that was all about, years ago. Again, you talk about something that is a completely different vibe from what goes on, at the core site. And then you go out to this peaceful, tranquil setting with 100 seaplanes, and again, a great way to go spend the morning or afternoon in a completely different environment.
What's the latest update on aluminum overcast?
It will. The intent is that it'll be here, but probably will have just been ferried up if we get that far. We obviously we've got work to do on that aircraft with a couple areas that we found on a pre-flight. We've got one wing off and redoing some of the fittings, the attached fittings. It really depends on what the timing is of getting those manufactured, getting the airplane back together, and getting it up here. It may or may not be here.
Right.
But right now the plan is it would be, but a lot of work to be done on it.
There you go. Here's one. And is it really 5 airports all operating simultaneously? I think we've got a little inflation on that number there. It's not quite 5, but pretty close.
Yeah, kind of. It certainly is. You've got the what goes on, with the main, airport itself here. You look at what goes on, from an ultralight standpoint, with the ultralight strip. Pioneer doesn't operate necessarily in its normal fashion, but it does as a home for helicopters and our helicopter rides, and then in the evening, there's an RC field at the east end of Pioneer that are available for folks that bring an RC, a smaller, lighter weight RC. They can come out and fly, and that's another one of those areas where kind of a fun thing to do in an evening, and that has just continued to grow. So
So
yeah, there's a few
I guess it is
balls
5.
and Seaplane Base going on
Yep.
at the same time.
There you
So
go. So it's actually 6.
yeah,
And if you've not been and you manage it in your schedule, if you get there on the weekend, the Saturday or Sunday, to watch the mass arrivals,
yes,
there's within Whitman Regional Airport there are 2 separate arrival patterns, north, south, east, west, and depending on wind conditions, which way folks are coming from. But on the main runway, the north-south runway, they're actually using the main runway and a taxiway for simultaneous operations. Meanwhile, on the east-west runway, they're landing aircraft there as well. So it's something to see, and definitely some interesting landings
yeah,
that you'll see. I,
yep.
I know a former board member whose name I won't mention to save him from embarrassment, but he once brought a Myers OTW. He had a fresh restoration, and he brought it to the show. It was landing on the main north-south runway, and was just so proud of his landing, but forgot that being a tail dragger, that it's not really done flying until it's in the chocks. He kind of took his eyes off the runway and looked at the crowd and all the people that were watching this beautiful airplane roll out, and a little gust of wind came around, and around he went and backwards down the runway. So yeah, sometimes humbling. The airplane was fine and the pilot was fine, and he enjoyed telling the story. But yeah, some interesting arrivals that happened, including some mass arrivals. So we're getting
Yes.
Moonies and Cessnas again this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Bonanzas, Comanches, and I think, you mentioned, this goes back to actually one of the earlier questions. What are those things you might not think about or might not know? And, if you're used to coming here and showing up after the event has started, then that whole Saturday and Sunday, prior to the start, has its own unique character to it, and a big part of that are the arrivals in general and the mass arrivals. You will see lots and lots of folks with their lawn chairs on the flight line, just watching arrivals. And when you do see, 100 Bonanzas come in and land within 25 minutes or so, it's a pretty good show. And it is just one of those fun pieces of AirVenture, is just watching it fill up, and the arrivals are a big part of that.
All right, Rick, we're just about out of time here. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Nope, we're looking for a great year. Right now, our advanced numbers look real good, and we're just looking for a great year. It's always fantastic to get the community back together, and I think AirVenture does it as well as any event, and it's fun. Whether you're here as a visitor, or you're here, on staff, or as a volunteer. It is a uniquely great event and fun to be part of.
All right, and for folks who want the latest information on the event, what's the website?
You can just go to EA.org and click on AirVenture, and you'll be in the midst of all the AirVenture information.